Alright, hey guys. It's been a long time since I did a video, so I thought I would, do a video so you guys can check out the progress that I've made on my little project. Um, this is my building, so that's new. There's not much to it, but I don't know, it's a start. It's got my stuff in it. Anyway, so I guess just to kind of start off with, what's new since the last video, what's not new. A lot of the stuff is really the same, but we definitely have some new additions that are really slick. I think you guys are really going to like them. As far as the building goes, there's not much going on here. It's just a basic structure. I've got some push button lights here to light it up, which are kind of cool. I usually keep it about half lit just for performance. So that's probably good there. A lot of the same stuff as last time. Got my a couple heavy bags. Got my Wing Chun dummy. Got my stick. Um, these are I just keep them in here just because I want to keep things consistent as I go through the process, and it helps me remember how things have improved since previous versions. So most everything is similar to last time. A lot of the stuff is going to look the same, but I've done a lot of tweaks to the body physics and stuff. So you can't really see it, but this all feels better than it used to. The collarbones articulate better. Everything just articulates a lot better and seems more spot on to my actual physics. And so this just feels really good when you're working some of this stuff. It just feels like it's on, um, as compared to before, which was good, but it's better now. I do have some changes that I made a little bit to the ghost hand and whatnot. Started to implement, if you push too fast and the ghost hand gets really far away from the regular hand, there's actually a penalty that's incurred for that. So you're actually strongest when you're a little bit away, but not too far away. So there's actually a drop off where you can feel yourself get weaker as the hand gets farther away. And that's an adjustable curve, so I can tweak that however that needs to be tweaked. But that works really good when you're pushing something heavy. If you push through it, you get a little bit weaker because you're so far out of position. So that'll slow down your pushes and make them feel a little bit more realistic. I did add a crazy bag, a double end bag. I don't like strings, just because I wouldn't want to model the colliders, and it's a complicated chain to try to connect a bunch of segments together. So I just made like a particle effect that I'm using throughout the game. Just anytime there's like a magic force that's holding something, instead of using strings and chains, which I don't want to have to deal with colliders on chains. I wouldn't want it to be there, but I also wouldn't want it to not be there because it looks like a chain. It ought to act like a chain. Now it doesn't look like a chain or a string or anything. It looks like it's magic, and you can put your hand through magic. So I'm good with it. Anyway, may change it, may not. I don't know. Anyway, double land bag. So it's pretty cool. I got it cranked up pretty high right now. What I'll probably do later is add like a lever or something so that you can crank the tension on it. Anyway, it works pretty good. It's a little bit more complicated than you might think. It's got like an internal core that moves independently of the outside, which makes it so that it's not quite as spastic when you hit it at a little bit of an angle. It kind of dampens it a little bit, makes it seem like it's almost a little bit squishy or something. Still got the boxes over here. They're still fun to push around. Although I got the lights off. I don't really come over to this area anymore. I just leave it in here to make sure that the physics is consistent from one version to another, and then I haven't screwed anything up. Um, Again, it's nice to have the physics, the ghost physics a little bit different, so that it drops off after you push too far. In the older versions, if I were to push this far, the box would probably go flying across the room just because I've got so much force on it. So much better now. Anyway, what else do we have going on? Still got the old rotating staff thing smacking around. We I had like a little force, like a scrolling force board, so I can get some number reads off of hits. I haven't found much use for it yet, but I think at some point there will be a use for it if I start to try to model damage or enhance collision strength or something like that. Then this kind of thing's going to come in handy to be able to read the numbers off of here. Um, I haven't used it much just because the numbers that it spits out are kind of crap. So I need to figure out a better way to measure impulse forces and whatnot to make that so that it's just not kind of garbage. Um, oh, this is just something I've been down a lot of side roads while working on this. That's one of the reasons why it took so long between videos. Um, And I mean, I had all kinds of weird. So I had a ladder you could climb up, and a pipe across the ceiling you could shimmy across, and you could get up on the rafters and like climb around and stuff. But all the climbing physics, as cool as they were, they really took away from the fighting physics, where you're trying to hold a strong center line, vertical center line. You're near to the ground. With the climbing physics and stuff, it made it so that your body wasn't really in a fixed place. It could get knocked down. It could turn sideways. It could do all kinds of stuff. And it actually was it was a lot of work to make it not fight well. um, I'd like to add that back in at some point in the future, but I'm not sure if it's really ever going to make it. It's just a completely different concept. Anyway, and I stuck this in here when I was playing around with moving things separately from what they're connected to. I'm not sure if that makes much sense, but anyway, I was working on a way to have the head and the body kind of slightly offset, independent of each other. Like if you were to take a hit to the head, does it shift your vision? Does it move the camera? Does it shift your head without moving the camera? There's a lot of weird questions that you have to try to figure out answers to. And this is just something that I was playing with. Um, it's not part of the game or anything. It's just a neat way to interact with an object and have it feel really nice. Um, it, it's attached to the pedestal without really being completely attached to the pedestal. So it's just a neat object. Anyway, I got the color swatches for the stick, so you can change the color of the stick still. I've been liking this like regular kind of a rattan stick color the most actually lately. Um, I got tired of seeing glow sticks all the time. Um, there's two of them because there's actually an effect that I've got in between the sticks at 90 frames per second, and the stick's moving so fast, it skips. So if I really wing the stick, you're only going to see 4 or 5 sticks maybe, and it's difficult to interpret the motion of a stick that's moving really fast when all you see are little snapshots of the stick. And so I've got a different color fill effect than the main stick color. So you can kind of see when it's being filled in. You got that motion blur going on. And it's just really a lot nicer to look at with that in place. Started a little weapon rack. I'm concentrating on the Arnie sticks for now, the Eskrima sticks for now. I'm not too worried about these other items, although it is cool that they're in here. I can use them for testing and stuff, and it's nice to be able to swing them around and see how it responds. Most of the time, it's crap, to be honest, because these aren't affixed to the hand. Like if I pull out one of the Arnie sticks, it's magically attached to my hand. It's got a single physics joint that does the attachment. It's computationally cheap to do it that way, and it's really nice. It feels really solid and stuck to the hand. Now I'd have these new wonderful hands that took like, I don't know, maybe like a month, where I was working out all these fingers and stuff. It doesn't look like much because I've got, this basic capsule primitive shape stuff going on here. And I may mesh it. I may not mesh it. I'm not sure. I kind of like I kind of like to see the actual colliders instead of a mesh. I'm not sure how I'm going to deal with it. Anyway, so I've got these wonderful new hands, and they're really really cool because they use real physics gripping. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. Like you got 20, 21 bones in the hand now, and it's actually doing a real grip. And so unlike most of the time where you'll see these VR snap grips, where you don't actually have a hand, you just have a magic snap effect that attaches something to you. I mean, these are real. These are like real hands. Um, the fingers are fairly realistic in their ranges of motion, the joint ranges of motion. It looks really cool when you roll them and smash them on stuff. When you grab stuff, you can do all kinds of unorthodox gripping, which is one thing that I really really like about them. Instead of me, just, oh, I want to pick this up, I can only snap grab, the center of the handle. Um, this is much different than that. I can grab this in any way that the fingers can grab it. I can get it with like one finger. I can grab it in strange unorthodox ways, and it makes sense. Um, it's not perfect. If you try to manipulate a small object like this, it's kind of crap. Um, it feels bad in the game. It's distracting. So, you'd probably want to design a game where you don't have to interact with tiny objects. But for interacting with big objects, like these weights, it's really, really nice. And you can do stuff that you wouldn't be able to do in another game. So like I can stack these and then do just like some weird grab where it's actually trying to find the places for my fingers to go, um, which is just really, really slick. So they are computationally expensive. I mean, it's 20 bones with joints and all kinds of inertia tensors and all kinds of stuff going on to make them work well. But if I only got two hands and you got a good CPU, um, then it actually is working out pretty well. It's not bogging down too much at all. Um, and I can continue to try to optimize and tweak those, but they work pretty good. Various boxes of different weights and things. Just like I said, I try to keep a lot of these physics objects in here just to get a realistic, if this is a 25-pound weight, what does it feel like to curl it? What is it, if I extend it out, how long can you? I can't hold a 25-pound weight out straight out like this. So I need to adjust the physics here to try to take that into account. If I grab this one, which is a 50. I mean, the idea, you're not going to be able to hold something like this out. You probably can barely pick it up. So right now, the character's too strong, but I haven't put in mechanisms that I like. I've tried a lot of different things. I don't like them yet. Um, but you can see if I push this a little bit, then than it does actually. He struggles to hold it upright, um, and he struggles less when it's closer to the shoulder. But it's not quite right yet. It's actually pretty good. And it feels good when you're not holding a heavy object. The hands are very, very responsive. They match very, very closely with what the ghost hand is doing. And that's the real trick. How do you make it so that when you're moving quickly and there's a tremendous amount of forces applied to the arms and wrists and hands and everything, and you want it to be super responsive, but then when you pick up something heavy, you want it to be very realistic in the amount of weight that it can actually pick up, and that's a tricky balance to try to do. Anyway, blah blah blah. Oh, this is my rubber bouncy ball. Again, with the fingers, I really dig these fingers. I haven't seen anything like it in any VR game. Maybe somebody did it, but I haven't seen anything like it. They're just really, really nice. They're not, they're not real fingers, and it's always going to feel really awkward that you can't move them in the ways that you want to move them, like it's your real hand. But you can certainly do things that you can't do in other VR games because you've got this soft touch. There's give to it. And so, tossing something and catching it is probably a lot easier than you would see in other applications. It's bounceable. Kind of sucks. Here, let me grab that. But it's not like you're going to play basketball with these things. But just the fact that you can do it, that you've got enough control to be able to bounce something like that, is really, really slick. All right, what else we got going on? Oh yeah, I mentioned I've got these other weapons. You can grab them with the regular grips without having the magic grip, and you can still kind of use it a little bit, but it's not right. And there's a lot of things that you would want to do to improve it. So, for example, there's forearm positions and collisions going on that you would want to get rid of. You would want to no clip some of this stuff just so that when the arm isn't acting in the game the way that it's acting in real life, it doesn't impede your ability to move the sword to a particular position that would be realistic, even though the game doesn't quite get it right. But just the fact that you can pick up something that's not designed, that's not specifically, it doesn't have like a cheat joint to make it work better. Just the fact that you can pick up something and start swinging it around and banging on stuff is really, really cool. It also means that if I've got my sticks and if I've got my sticks, I can pass it from one hand to another, or if I get a disarm and pull the enemy stick away, then I've got this object that I can use, even though it's not in a regular grip. I can use it wherever I've grabbed it, reverse grip or whatever. It's not super. The fingers vibrate and get out of position, so you'll get them caught and things like that. But it's really, really cool, regardless. So I've got staves. These are garbage, but they're still kind of cool just to try them out and see, whether or not you could do anything with long two-handed weapons, whether or not it would feel good or not. I can say that anything that has any kind of weight to it is never really going to feel great because you don't have that weight in your hands. So there's always going to be this disconnect where you're holding these two lightweight controllers, but in the game you've got this heavy weapon, and it just doesn't quite work. I wish it worked. I wish it was cool like that. But for example, if I'm doing a staff spin, if I'm trying to just windmill this thing, I can't feel it. I can't feel I can't feel it in my hand. I don't know when to release it. If I'm moving my grip around, I can't feel the object in my hand, and so being able to adjust for two-handed weapon sparring, there's no way to get around the fact that you would have to use some kind of magic grips, maybe something that slides up and down but stays attached, or has a push button attach and detach, or something like that. You're never going to be able to just use this natural hand grip by itself and make that work. But like I said, it's still cool that it's even possible to pick something up without a magic grip and start whacking things with it. Again, it's not good, but it's doable, and that's pretty cool. Some kettlebells I added just for different grip action and stuff. So, all right, on to the good stuff. We've got Bob here. I got two Bobs. I got Strong Bob and Weak Bob. So one of the things that I'll have to reconcile, one of the things I'll have to figure out how to do, is the amount of force that's applied to try to get the hand to the ghost hand. For my character and this character, who's essentially a mirror of my character, he's everything's the same as me, essentially. If you want the hands to track well, if you want them to be spot on to where the ghost is pretty much all the time, otherwise it's gonna feel terrible. There's a lot of force that goes into that, and if I leave that force on all the time, it's also force that's applied using a feedback controller, and the feedback controller is pulling at a really really high rate. There's no reaction time delay. There's no there's no delay that happens between its ability to recognize that it's out of position and it starting to move to position. And it does that with an incredible amount of force to make it feel good when you use it, when it tracks. And so it's very difficult to move Strong Bob's hand off of that position, and if I release it, it flies back almost immediately. It's a realistic speed, but it's essentially, as the instant I let go is the instant that he starts to move at the maximum possible rate that he can put that hand back, realistic rate that he could put that hand back. So that's not going to fly if I'm trying to spar with Bob and everything he does is full power, full speed, and robotic, computerized reflexes with no reaction time delay. It just doesn't work. It's a difficult problem to try to solve. I've tried a bunch of different things. Most of them suck, but I think there's a way to do it. But it's going to be somehow dealing with the tension. So this is Weak Bob, and he's essentially set up the same, but he's got some extra dampening in the joints, and he doesn't use nearly as much power to pull his hands back, to move himself around. So it's going to be this tricky balance of changing between Weak Bob and Strong Bob on the fly, and then possibly adding some reaction time delay in there as well. If I move, I've already thought about the movement. So if it's self-initiated, when I move, I've already thought about what I'm going to do, and as soon as I move, it happens instantly. However, if he strikes my hand, if he knocks my hand out of position, there's a delay where I don't even know that I've been struck, for like a tenth of a second, or 0.15, about 0.15 of a second reaction time delay, where my brain hasn't even figured out that something hit me yet. And it's really difficult to try to figure out how to put in that reaction time delay for unexpected forces, but have no reaction time delay for self-initiated forces. All the forces kind of get all mixed up together, and it's difficult to distinguish one from another. And so you get into these weird feedback loops, where the hand will oscillate. if you because you don't have perfect prediction, and you get into weird oscillations and all kinds of stuff that just doesn't feel good. So in any case, one of these days I'll try to merge strong bob and weak bob and have him flip flop back and forth at just the right time, so that when he's supposed to be strong, he's very very strong and fast, and when he's not supposed to be expecting something, boom, you can knock him out of position, and it'll work right. I just haven't figured out exactly how to do that yet. All right, so I got my hands. Those are really cool. Like I said, I've got some. See the green indicator light. So I added a way for me to grab my stick. It's almost like I've got a back holster or something for my sticks. But I couldn't. If I've got him in a frozen position, I need to be able to give him sticks as well. And sometimes I want to stick without him having a stick. So what I did is I made it so that if I'm in proximity to his hand, then I can feed him a stick, or I can make him drop the stick whenever I want. And so that's convenient because I can grab a stick and I can let's say that I did a disarm on him or something like that, and he dropped a stick. I can feed him another stick. So that's what's going on if you're wondering why it's lighting up and doing all kinds of weird things and where the sticks are coming from. I've still got these objects in the room. These correspond to real objects in my room, like I said, so that I don't bump into this filing cabinet. Okay, so another cool thing that I added are these delays. So I can freeze him or unfreeze him, and so I can have him on 0 delay, which means he's going to mirror. Essentially, he's going to mirror exactly what I do. So there's certain types of drills that this is fantastic for. For example, if you wanted to work like a double Sinawali or a single Sinawali, to have him mirror me exactly is really nice, because I can change speed at any time, and he's going to match that speed. Not great for every drill, but for some drills it's really, really nice. I also get to see him do it, and he's doing it exactly like I'm doing it, so I'm essentially able to check my form while I'm doing the drill. So I can see exactly what I'm doing right or wrong, and correct myself. If I crank this up and put him on a delay, then I can try to do the same drill, but I won't be doing it against the movements that I'm doing currently. I'm doing it against the movements that I did 2 seconds ago. So for example, if I do that same double Sinawali, now I'm doing the drill against the movements that I did 2 seconds ago, which is much more difficult, because I can't slow down and speed up. I have to do it exactly at the right timing. So it's kind of like a metronome. It's kind of like doing like if you're practicing music and you've got a metronome on, forcing yourself to stay right on beat. This is kind of doing the same kind of thing. So any kind of drill that you can think of, where you're repeating a motion and going into a loop, is going to work out really, really well with the delays. I don't have any real AI in here yet. This is really just the first glimpse of what it would feel like for there to be AI in the game. And it's very, very different from the mirroring. It feels very, very odd to have the opponent doing something that's completely unexpected, because I forgot what I did a couple of seconds ago, and it starts to feel pretty cool. I can only imagine that when I've got some full AI in here, he's doing all kinds of unexpected attacks, and got good defense. It's going to be really, really a blast to play. So I don't think that it's ever going to play well, full tilt, full speed. It's just not, after playing with the concept and being in VR for quite some time now, it's just not something that's going to play really well. It's just too spastic. and since you can't feel anything, everything's going to get delayed, and you're just going to end up, in really awkward positions, and it's not going to be all that much fun. So the idea of having full speed, realistic sparring against an opponent without the the sense of feel and without being pushed around, it just doesn't work. I would love for it to work, but I just don't think it's going to work. That said, there's some really cool stuff I think you can do with light touch and quick drills, which is how a lot of the Screamer in particular is so much is done with drill work. Because in real life, your fight's not really going to last more than a couple of seconds, where it's a swing and a block and a knockout, and that's it. So if you want to get used to playing with the sticks, you're going to end up having to do it kind of like a drill, variety of drills. So I think that's how I'm going to base the game concept. Is really going to be about doing classroom type drills. So this is going to be like a school environment with instructors or students or whatever, and you're going to do drills with them or be led in instruction. Very very similar to how it would go down in a real martial arts class. I think that's going to work out really really well. I think that you can gamify a lot of that and make it also amazing to play. Where you're going through these drills and maybe you've got to tag particular parts. Maybe they're lit, or maybe there's um, lit up areas that you've got to touch. Something that'll glow. I've got to hit him here. 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 So it's almost like kind of like, I don't want to say Beat Saber, but a concept where you've got this timing game, and you're expected to move to a particular position that's indicated, and then you gamify that and make it really really fun, with real martial arts concepts being taught as well. Um, let me crank him down to 1.3. So for example, more drills. For example, 6 count um, works out really really well. Well, when he doesn't get his stick stuck. Oh, that's funny. I was like, why does he keep getting his stick stuck? That's because he's trying to do it left-handed. He's just moving his hand with my check hand. All right, this should make a lot more sense. Okay, so going to a nice 6 count drill here. So maybe you're doing various different drills. Maybe you're doing drills with variations in them, unexpected. It's like we're doing this and he throws a punch or something like that, and then I'm essentially getting scored on or making a game out of how well I can do that. So it'll be part sandbox, part drill work, part just a lot of different concepts that I think will work really really well. You start making up stuff and experimenting. So this was never a drill that I did in class, but you start, smacking sticks with Bob for a while, and just a real basic strike and block type stuff. Drop it down some more. So he's a little bit too fast or too powerful, I guess would be the word, not too fast, for the handwork. Because it's like hitting an iron rod. Because he has instant reaction time pushing back against any forces that I'm pushing on him. So he really needs a delayed response there. And again, I haven't figured out the best way to do that yet. But you can do, something like this where you're getting your Decadena drill work in or whatever. You can imagine various different things that you can do with this kind of stuff. All right, so let's go on over here to Weak Bob. So Weak Bob's actually I think a lot more interesting than Strong Bob. Um, uh, he really is very weak. Here I'll show you. Um, so drop the stick real quick. So if I try to move him around, you can see how slow he moves. His joints are kind of dampened, and his forces are much weaker. Um, so it's not so much that I would use him for, a live action, reaction time drill or anything like that. I like him for the static stuff. So if I give him a little delay and then I hit a pose, and then put him in this pose. And then I can explore, hey, what do I want to do from here? And one of the other things that I added was some joint work in here. So, for example, he's got a realistic, elbow stops when it gets extended. He's got a wrist that has limits to its range of motion. He's got a shoulder that also has limits to its range of motion, and so it's not fantastic, but I've never seen anybody try to model this in a game before. Um, and so you can actually do basic locks, back wrist lock here, and I could try to get him in one of these. I could come up and try to do the old handcuff, hammer lock. Um, I mean, it's actually pretty decent. Um, so to the point where you can do, what's essentially a center lock. Um, Spin around. I could put him in lost it. So again, it's definitely not perfect. But just the fact that it's in here at all is really cool. Standing center lock, wrist control. I mean, it's just, you're not going to be able to do every single thing, but I've thrown a lot at it, and I'm actually really impressed at how good it does. Um, I can't quite get this unnatural armbar. Here we go. So it's pretty cool. And with the hands being able to grab, um, and go into various kinds of unexpected things, um, it's really cool. See if I can't get a rear naked on this guy. There we go. Almost hand slipped out. Anyway, there we go. You get the idea. So, pretty cool. Center lock. Yeah. Chicken wings. All that stuff's in there. And none of that's, I mean, I didn't program any of it. I didn't program it to do any specific thing. I just, set the joint limitations, set the forces, and then all the stuff is coming out. It's just kind of emerging like it's supposed to, which is really cool. So another thing that I'd like to get into, I've got I've got a basic torque-based disarm ability in here. It's very basic. I only spent I barely spent like an hour on it or something like that. So if I yank on this, then I can pull the stick out of his hand if it's under enough tension. So I can actually get my stick. Let's say I put him in like a one strike. Okay. So I can start working some actual disarms here. Um, and they may or may not have enough force to pop the stick loose. There we go. But that can all be adjusted later when I have time to do that. What I'd like to do is combine the the wrist or elbow or shoulder joint limitations with the strength that the joint has to hold on to the stick. So what I'll do eventually is make it so that if the wrist is torqued, then it's going to be much less strong. Right now, it's a magic joint that stays the same no matter what. But later, when the wrist is put under crazy stress because it's in an awkward position, then that's going to make the hand weak. And then I'll also account for where the fingers would be allowing the stick to pop out. So if I can account for those two things, then I think the disarms are going to get really, really, really realistic. Okay, so you got all your disarms. Let me put them like in a two strike. Give him his stick back. So again, you've got your disarms. Oh. So even some of the stranger ones seem to actually work fairly decently considering they're not programmed in or anything. So this I think is supposed to be off like a 4, where you've got this grip that squeezes the thumb on his hand, and then you end up with like a center lock disarm if you want that as well. Is doable, and that's just to me that's amazing. That that something like that can come close to working. Obviously, it's not going to work, full tilt, full speed on strong bob over there. But just to be able to practice it, and just at this early stage, where I'm going to be able to try to tune and refine this stuff and make it better. It's really cool to see that stuff in there. So, well, anyway, so that's pretty much it. Oh, I guess there's one more thing I got over here. So I haven't put any AI in the game yet, except I did want to just kind of toy with it for a little bit to see, just a proof of concept what it would be like. So this is my first crack at a basic AI, and it's just a stick that matches my stick. It blends, it stays upright. So if I turn my stick over, it doesn't turn over. So it's just a blend. He's trying to make a cross, but not go inverted. So at certain points he has to flip and turn the other way so he doesn't invert. And that's about it. But it is remarkably difficult, when he's at full speed to get anywhere near that center object. So it shouldn't be that hard to implement something basic like that on old Bob over there, where he's got the ability to do some blocks. So I have a lot of hope that the AI is just going to be really, really good, and I suspect that's really where all my time's going to go once I get the anatomy and stuff really tuned well. Then it's just going to be AI. And that's going to be the game. Gamify it, and put amazing AI in it, and I think that's going to be just amazing. So anyway, well that's it for an update, and hopefully it won't take me so long to do the next round. So I kind of wish I had some of the old stuff in here that I was toying around with. I spent a couple months on the climbing and stuff. And like I said, it was really, really cool, but it just doesn't work, and it was a huge time suck taking all my time to work on these concepts that just probably won't ever be used. Um, let's see. I don't know if I had force pull in the game last time around or not, but it's a handy way of picking up stuff off the floor since picking up stuff in VR sucks. Um, I probably won't make it a game element. It's just not. I'd rather just make a game where you don't have to pick stuff up off the floor, as opposed to making a game where you have to force pull everything or have weird mechanisms for doing basic things. So, but anyway, these are heavy boxes. This is like 200 pounds. So that's pretty much it. And until next time, take care, guys.